Urinalysis is an examination of the urine. Remember, the kidneys filter the blood and produce urine, which carries waste products and extra water and things that the body is filtering out. So if we look at the volume of that urine, as well as the physical and chemical and microscopic properties of that urine, we can sort of assess what's going on in the body. So normally we will eliminate about 1 to 2 liters of blood each day, of urine each day as we filter the blood. But there are several things that can alter that. How much fluid you take in, your blood pressure. Remember, pressure is going to push against those capillaries, right? Your osmolarity of the blood. Now remember, osmolarity is just a measure of the solutes in a solution. So the solutes in the blood, what you eat, your body temperature, if you take diuretics, even your mental state and your overall health can influence the volume of urine that you excrete. For example, low blood pressure will trigger the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone pathway that we talked about with endocrine. So aldosterone increases the amount of salts that are resorbed in the kidney tubules. Water follows salt. So what does it do? It helps us to retain more water, therefore we decrease urine volume. On the other hand, when blood's osmolarity decreases, then say you drank a large volume of water, then secretion of ADH, antidiuretic hormone, is going to be inhibited. So what does ADH do? Antidiuretic. That means you decrease urine output when you have ADH, right? It makes you retain water. So if you've already consumed too much water, ADH is going to be inhibited, and that causes a larger volume of urine to be excreted. So let's look at some of the normal characteristics of urine, and then we'll talk about some of the things that normally are in urine and some of the things that should not be in the urine. So as I mentioned, the volume is about 1 to 2 liters in a 24-hour period. About 95% of that urine volume is water. The color ranges from a very, very pale yellow to a darker orangey amber, and that's going to vary with the concentration and with the diet. So the color is due to a pigment that's produced when we break down bile, and that's called urochrome, and also urobilin from the breakdown of hemoglobin. So those are just byproducts of breaking down in their pigments, right? So the concentration makes your urine darker. When the concentration is increased, the urine is darker. When you have a very dilute urine, more water, it's going to be much lighter. It can be affected by diets. So if you eat a lot of red vegetables such as beets or a lot of carrots, so red and orange foods can make it much darker. Certain medications and diseases can also affect the color of the urine. The urine should be sort of transparent when you first look at it after urination, but as it sits, it becomes much more cloudy, and we call that turbid. So the longer it sits, the more turbidity, or the more cloudy the urine will appear. Urine has a mildly aromatic odor or smell, and it becomes more ammonia-like after it sits a bit. Some people inherit a gene that gives them the ability to break down a certain product when you digest asparagus. I love asparagus, and yes, I have that gene. How do I know I have that gene? Because I have what's known as asparagus pee. It gives a really funky odor to your urine very shortly after digesting that asparagus. Also, the urine of people that have diabetic conditions related to blood sugar will sometimes have a very fruity or sweet smelling aroma to their urine. The normal pH of urine ranges between 4.5, 4.6 to about 8.0, so from very acidic to alkaline, but the average is about 6.0. This again is going to vary with your diet and your overall health. High protein or high fat diets can increase the acidity as the products of those diets are broken down, releasing hydrogen ions. Vegetarian diets tend to have more bicarbs and therefore are going to increase the pH, and the blood fluids and the urine as a result, or the blood and the urine as a result, would be more alkaline as that pH increases. So the specific gravity is the density, again very similar to osmolarity. So it's a ratio of weight of the same volume compared to distilled water. Now we know water doesn't contain anything but water. So in lab you'll do this little example of a specific gravity or you'll talk about specific gravity and look at the little device that we use to measure that, which is called a refractometer. So pure water has a measurement of specific gravity of 1.000. A very, very dilute urine has a specific gravity of 1.001, and then a more concentrated urine has a specific gravity of 1.035. So the higher the number, the more solutes as compared to water. If you have a disease that alters your metabolism or alters kidney function, then when you do a urinalysis, you may find substances that shouldn't be present in the urine. So let's look at some of these. Albumin is a protein that's found in your blood plasma, and you should have heard this when you studied blood, but we normally don't filter out a lot of proteins into the urine because they're too large to get across those capillary beds of the glomerulus. So if you have presence of albumin in the urine, especially in high amounts, that's called albuminuria. Albumin in the urine, right? So this indicates that there's an increase in the permeability of the filtration membrane. Now that can be because of injury or disease, increased blood pressure, irritation of the kidney cells by things such as toxins, or heavy metals can cause this irritation as well. Glucose should not be present in the urine. That's known as glucoseuria. Now, usually when you find glucose, sugar in the urine, that's indicative of diabetes mellitus, because normally the insulin that's secreted is going to cause body cells to take in that glucose. Now, some glucose may be excreted or may be filtered out across the glomerulus, but it's resorbed. It doesn't make it into the urine. Hematuria, indicates the presence of red blood cells. So your erythrocytes. This usually only happens when you have a pathological condition such as acute inflammation of some of the organs in the urinary system. It may be irritation from kidney stones, but it can be the result of tumors or some type of traumatic injury, kidney disease, or in females you may find red blood cells in a urinalysis due to contamination of the sample because of menstrual blood getting into the urine sample. Ketone bodies are produced when you're breaking down fats and proteins because you have too little carbs in your diet or starvation. This can also indicate diabetes mellitus and anorexia. What else? Let's see. Bilirubin. You shouldn't have bilirubin present. Bilirubin is created or is a byproduct, I should say, of the breakdown of hemoglobin. So if red blood cells are being destroyed, then you're going to have the presence of bilirubin. Bilirubin is normally going to be further broken down in the liver, processed, but if you have the presence of bilirubin in the urine, then that could be indicative of some type of liver disorder, hepatitis or cirrhosis, where the liver is not breaking down that bilirubin. And of course, we shouldn't see bacteria or microbes in the urine unless there's a urinary tract infection. Also, there's a fungal infection. We typically call it a yeast infection, and it is the cause of vaginitis. And the most frequent protozoan infection that shows up in the urine sometime is Trichomoniasis. and it is another form of vaginitis in the females and urethritis in the males.